Greetings to all you good people out there and welcome to BLOCKCHANCE Online Live. My name is Sönke Misfeld. I'm your host and this show is brought to you by BLOCKCHANCE Conference, Central Europe's biggest blockchain and AI conference and trade fair. BLOCKCHANCE Online Live is an online broadcasted talk show format in the fields of artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, as well as related technologies for positive impact. Each show, we will bring inspiring speakers and innovative thought leaders to discuss the current and future developments within these fields, and most importantly, to see how we can leverage these disruptive technologies for a more fair and sustainable future. So stay tuned and see what's coming up now on BLOCKCHANCE Online Live. So BLOCKCHANCE Online Live is a collaborative platform and we want you to be part of it. So at first, please subscribe to our newsletter so we can keep you updated, and even more importantly, subscribe to our Telegram channel so you can communicate with us and give us your feedback and suggestions for the upcoming shows. You can also be a part of this show directly by typing your questions in the Twitch chat, and we will ask the most best fitting ones at the end of the show, so you can directly participate in this event. Oh, and before I forget it, we have a ticket giveaway in the middle of the show. When we have a short break, I will ask a question to the audience, and the one who types it first in the chat will be the winner. So stay tuned for that as well. So today's topic is a big one and a very relevant for each and every one of us. It is AI, big data, and blockchain. The big leading question behind that is who owns the infrastructure in a desirable future and how do we get there? So before we get this started, I would like to thank our guests for being here and for making this show what it is. And now let me introduce to you today's guests. So at first, I would like to welcome Manan Patel. He's our blockchain and cryptocurrency expert in this show. And he's been working for Porsche, Tata, Cisco, Deutsche Börse, General Motors. This list goes on. So all the big names you would like to have in your resume. And currently he's working as a blockchain product engineering manager at Ocean Protocol. Manan, say hello to the audience, please.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be at the show. And thanks for hosting me.
Thank you, Manan. Second speaker is Dr. Klaus Holthausen. He's very, very experienced in the fields of data science and artificial intelligence. And he's the founder and sits at the board of directors for Teal AI. So your time to say hello.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Klaus. And last but not least, we have Ragnar Kruse. He's founder, CEO, and president of successful high-tech companies. He's had his first tech startup when he was only 19-years old. He had his very, very successful exit last year, and he's now the founder at AI for Hamburg and AI Invest. Say hello to the audience, Ragnar.
Hello, welcome. And nice being here.
Thank you, Ragnar. Thank you. So to start with, I would like each and every one of you to just introduce yourself a little and tell us something about the most exciting projects you're currently working at. Maybe we can start with Manan.
So currently I'm working with Ocean Protocol, and at Ocean Protocol, what we are doing is we are creating a decentralized access control layer on Ethereum blockchain. And later on, we also try to integrate other blockchains as well. But the idea is that there are three factors that's kind of at the center is you should be owning your own data. You should be able to monetize your own data as well. And generally, AI should benefit from your data as well. So this is kind of the vision that we are building Ocean Protocol with. And with the help of blockchain and AI, we are sure we'll be able to build something valuable in the coming future.
Perfect. This is exactly why we have you here, Manan. Thank you for participating. So let's move on to Ragnar. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the current project you're working at.
Yes, thanks for having me here. Now I'm the founder of AI for Hamburg and also the CEO of AI Invest, which is an investment company investing in AI companies. AI for Hamburg is a non-profit organization which we have built here in Hamburg to actually bring AI to the German Mittelstand and educate them, but also then bring them together with all the AI companies and AI service providers so that they are able to faster implement and adopt. It's bringing the right message across so that everyone understands there are big advantages of adapting to productivity, efficiency, and to lifestyle also. Is probably one of the biggest challenges because AI very often is seen as kind of this Terminator intelligence, but what we're talking about is much more in productivity and bringing productivity to data.
And that's positive impact by definition. So yeah, thank you for being here. I'm very interested in what you will have to say later on. So our last guest, Klaus, could you please introduce yourself and tell us something about your project?
Yes, I studied physics and neuroscience and work about neural networks since 30 years, indeed, nearly 30 years. And my expertise is used now. Today, I'm CEO of Teal. What is Teal? We built a blockchain-based marketplace and use artificial intelligence in order to calculate the best recommendation of users, but generated from the user data. And so our main items match perfectly in this session today because ownership of data is the source for our artificial intelligence.
That is amazingly interesting, and I think that sounds to me like a competition to Amazon. So yeah, very interesting.
We hope so.
Yeah, we'll definitely get a little deeper into that later on. So let me start with a little introduction here. The big question is what would change if there weren't a few companies owning and controlling most of the data and trading it, but if everyone would be able to monetize their own data and control it. So currently the situation is that we have this huge tech companies, the most valuable ones in the world, controlling most of the data and harvesting it in exchange for their free services. And you could definitely state that the data already sits at the very heart of their business models. So I don't think it's underestimated to state that data is already the new gold of the digital economy. So I would like to go on with the first question to Klaus. Could you please tell us a little bit more or explain to the audience the status quo in the big data sphere and relate to us if is data already a product or is there still a way to go?
Oh, well, quite difficult question, and you only give me 2 minutes for answer. I will try. We are used to talk a lot about technology, but here we must realize it's not a technology item. It's about culture. Look at Twitter and Facebook. The technology is simple. Twitter only a few pages of source code. Why? But the culture is that the communities learned to use Twitter and Facebook and make their own culture of it. And the problem is today we have no culture of data ownership. And if you look in the States, the cooperation of TikTok and Walmart is that Walmart would like to gain the culture of TikTok, the user culture. But for us in Europe, it's important we have the best culture of data protection. And whatever comes after Amazon should be built on culture of data ownership. We have to learn this. It's completely new.
I totally agree with you on that one. So could you maybe go down a little bit more on the fact of why do we just hand away our data for free currently? So why did this culture not develop so far?
Well, why do we do so? Well, what is artificial intelligence today? It's almost used for recommendation engines. And the user experience is, oh, I get good recommendations. And so they don't mind about what other usages of data may be, of if the data are sold, as long as they are happy and have good recommendations.
So we need to make people aware about this problem in the first place, right? And we also have a second aspect here, which is that a lot of data, the more companies digitize their processes, a lot of data gets stuck in private silos and is not used for the common good, even though there is vast potential in it. Could you please state a little bit about that part of the sphere as well?
Well, from my scientific view, or from the view of artificial intelligence, I think the data silos are not useful for anything, because what is artificial intelligence? We talk about pattern recognition, and what we have on marketplaces is pattern generation. So we do not talk about target groups. We have the sources of generations of user patterns. For example, a couple of people that made a travel to Berlin and visits a hotel, a restaurant, and sightseeing. We hope that next year, after COVID-19, it may be easier than it's now. But this means that the couple of persons that travel to Berlin generate pattern. And this kind of pattern, we call it a template. And this template should be owned by the user that generates this data, this pattern of data. And it's used in a recommendation engine. And then the persons that generated the data should profit from the recommendation.
Yeah, that's a
this
very
is
good
our understanding of ownership of data.
That's a very good example you point out there. Let me move on, because you already had the importance of AI in there in your answer, and let me move on to Ragnar with the next question. Ragnar, I would like you to go a little bit deeper on the role of artificial intelligence for the big data processing. So how does artificial intelligence make data useful and valuable in the first place?
Yeah, let me maybe come up with some examples. In my prior company, I was in an edtech company where we monetized mobile apps. Yeah, and if you think about it, globally, we have about 2.5 billion smartphone users. Yeah, and each of them are using their smartphone on a daily basis with lots of data around it. Yeah. And so if you use an app, and you use a phone, then you basically know what kind of phone he's using based on the location he is, because the phones have GPS there. You actually know exactly where they are. And also during a day, you can actually tell where they are and from where they came and where they're going. And then you also have the history to that. So you can basically then tell where people were last month, and that is all data which is generated. And in edtech, in my prior company, basically this data was monetized through advertising. Yeah, and so and with every ad which was supposed to be displayed to a consumer, normally 50 data points came with it. Yeah, from the device, which app, GPS information, maybe some information, keywords from what he was doing within an app. And all of that was used then for targeting, for better targeting for advertising. So if you now take 2.5 billion users who constantly use their smartphone, you get 50 different variables, plus you can associate variables. So I have a GPS data. I can then actually look up what is around there. Is there a store? Is there a railway station, and so on, which then you can combine with that. You can take the weather location. So you see, these are many different variables. You now are able to point to a specific user at a specific time and location. And that's the data you can work with. Yeah. these are huge amounts of data. And giving you an example, on our platform, we had 260 million users on a daily basis. Yeah. And that produced, and we showed, had up to 30 billion ads per day, which were running through our platform. And that generated about 10 terabytes of data every day. Don't ask me now how many pages of text that is, but it's a lot of data. Yeah. The interesting part is that you can use this data then to make any kind of predictions. Yeah, Klaus was talking about predictions, recommendations. Yeah, what is the most likely product he would buy based on past data? And so a lot of use of data is now brought with artificial intelligence to predict what might happen in the future. Someone might buy, someone might visit, someone might be interested, and the probability gets better and better. The change to technology is that in the past, you worked basically with a set of rules. If someone is doing this and this, then you do that. Yeah. The interesting part is with AI, you can basically take historical data, and based on historical data, you make predictions. So you don't program anymore, and if someone does that, this happens, is you feed the machine with the past data, and then you make more and more better predictions. And out of this, a lot of outcome we have. Yeah. Something what everyone is using today is when you make a picture, then in your camera, it's already identifying a face. That's machine learning, part of artificial intelligence. Yeah. And the big companies today, they monetize all this data using an AI to basically do better targeting and monetize through advertising. Yeah. And so there is machine learning, artificial intelligence used to actually better predict. And actually, normally, why do you do advertising? To sell a product, to better sell more products. And look at the numbers of Amazon, you can actually tell they're doing quite a good job in predicting and then selling.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a very good keyword, actually, because you've been quite explaining right now the very vast potential for getting more efficiency out of it, better services for the customers and stuff like that. Just to have the other side of the coin showed here as well. Maybe Manan, could you already go down a little bit on the downside, on the risk side of this? So what's the potential negative outlook we have if the current developments in artificial intelligence and AI, big data, continue like this?
So the immediate issue that you see here are the data breaches, right? And you are seeing it very often and frequently nowadays, right? If you see, the reason why this happens is because of certain reasons. First of all, this big corporation or data silos that we call it are like holding lots and lots of data, right? As Ragnar mentioned, like petabytes of data, terabytes of data every day. Yeah. Now this also makes them like a honeypot. Yeah. So they're like big chunk pile of data sitting there. This also includes personal information, because right now there are no proper regulations that kind of stops them and make them invest into proper data infrastructure, right? So they have this personal information of users, and when they get hacked, like lots of information, lots of PII details gets hacked as well, and these are the people that suffer. Yeah. Another issue is the data custodianship. You take example of Facebook, for example, right? When you post in Facebook, right, you think that this is your profile, but actually the data is not yours, right? It is not a data ownership, it is data custodianship. Facebook is a custodian of your data. And even worse, they are not responsible for or liable for your data if they get hacked. The very recent example, if you can see, is Cambridge Analytica, right? The biggest country or the strongest country in the world, kind of the fate of that country was decided by a corporation using data from another corporation, right? like a targeting, a very classic example of targeting, user targeting.
You're talking about the election of Trump, right?
Election of Trump,
yeah.
Yes, exactly. Sorry for, yeah, this is the election of Trump, right? And recently, like this got disclosed, right? And now the Senate is doing all these investigations, but now this is like the after effects. This could have been avoided by Facebook if they intended to do that. But unfortunately, this is late, right? So there's a second issue that we have, the data custodianship and not the data ownership. And the third one is the black box environment. We don't know how our data is being used. No one tells us, right? There is like exchange of data on the background. We don't know which companies Facebook is selling your data to, which companies Google is selling your data to, right? So there is a black box environment. So these three issues are very persistent in the data hemisphere, right? And this needs to be solved. So blockchain, if you will, is capable of solving these issues, right? So blockchain basically is not a single point of failure. So there is no single ownership. It is run by a community. It's a community owned, right? And any single person can participate in the blockchain infrastructure. So that's kind of stops the single point of failure issue. Then everything is transparent. Anyone can check the transactions that's happening in the history of blockchain. Even like you can go back like 10 years or 20 years and check accurately what happened there. Yeah. So this also helps the law enforcement to kind of get proper evidence of if something goes wrong. Then the third is blockchain also makes it possible to create the data ownership. Now moving away from the data custodianship, right? Now you can own your data. You can still participate in the social network like Facebook, but now the data is yours and you give proper access to Facebook to use certain parts of your data. You can have a micromanagement on your data itself, right? And this also allows you to understand where your data is being used. Yeah. So I think blockchain holds the power to change and to help people, let's say, with their data and help them with these data breaches.
Perhaps one more point about the risks of data, because you mentioned Trump and Cambridge Analytica. It's based on scientific research from Stanford and Cambridge. And the important thing to know is that it's possible to generate psychological profiles from user data, exact psychological profiles. And this is indeed, from the scientific point of view, the risk within this data.
Yeah, that gets very political there, because the 100% transparent citizen is also the one that gets manipulated more easy, right? So it is kind of a direct danger to our democracies if we don't decentralize this and
yes.
give control.
And moreover, the psychological model they used, Ocean 5, is a psychological model that is able to identify terrible and angry people and make them more angry. And this is what happens outside now.
Yeah, so this was kind of my intention to give the audience a little bit of the downside of this whole, because, you know, we all see the very good services emerging. We all see how much artificial intelligence is improving the way we process data and make value out of it. But there is also this downside that we need to take into account when we move forward. I mean, there is big names like Elon Musk warning about the whole artificial intelligence just moving on without society getting some sort of a control and grab over that. We just one more question about this. In your eyes, do you think this also could lead to a situation where the most valuable data is in the hands of a few very powerful companies or individuals, and it further increases the income equality that we already face? Yeah, maybe Ragnar do you have an opinion on that?
Yes, I have an opinion. I think in Europe, we launched, what was it, 2 years ago, the new GDPR, the new, or in German, it's DSVGO, which is a data protection law, which goes quite far. And I think, and interesting about it is that there are also sanctions involved, which could be very expensive to the companies who actually breach those laws, which is about up to 4% of the worldwide revenue, which then means in the case of Google, Facebook, and so on, can be easily billions. Yeah. I think that is the right approach. Maybe it went a little bit too far to be able to better control it and make sure that companies actually take much more care about their data protection and also about even their processes and internal processes to protect the data for those of those breaches. Yeah. And there are the risks, of course, and we've seen them. Cambridge Analytics was one, which actually helped decide the presidency of what the free world's leader. Yeah, and I hope this will not happen again in that way this year. But that is misuse. And the other part is, of course, with all that information, you very often have the theft of identities, which allows others then to do this on a larger gain. Yeah. So therefore, having those laws in place will help prevent this. But I think it's not only that, is we need to get into the mindset of corporations, how important it is to save that data. And from the CEO to the last employee who handles and has access to those kind of systems.
Ragnar, that's actually a perfect point for me, and it's very great that you brought in this governmental role here. Sorry to interrupt you, but we are already at the point where we have our short break, and in this break, directly after a short video about the BLOCKCHANCE conference, we will have the ticket giveaway. So stay tuned for that, and I will ask the question to the audience directly after this short video.
Who owns your data? Who owns your money? Your future. We are approaching a new dawn. Blockchain technology. Artificial intelligence. Sustainability. Part of the evolution. Hamburg, Germany, 2021. BLOCKCHANCE 2021.
And now it is time for our BLOCKCHANCE 2021 ticket giveaway worth 300 euros. The BLOCKCHANCE conference will be at March 13th, situated here in Hamburg. So grab your keyboard, be ready. I will ask the question now. In which year and month the Bitcoin white paper was released? It's always astonishing to me how long this already has been since Bitcoin was released. So that's a very, very interesting question for most people that are not aware. I think we should get the answer soon. By now, people should be able to Google it, actually. Maybe it's difficulty. Oh, we already have a winner. It is Sonja Sonnenschein. That's probably a pseudonym. Yeah, congratulations. We will talk to you directly after the show and to match everything out. So stay in the chat as well. And now let's get back to our discussion round. So first question goes to Manan, because I think that you are quite deep in this topic at the moment. The idea of the new emerging data economy and more specifically data marketplaces emerging. Could you please tell us a little bit about that and how that will improve society and how it might work actually?
Yeah. So I just mentioned before the break that how blockchain can help solve some issues of data, right? And this is the direction kind of right now we are working with. So the data marketplaces, way I see is basically built on certain features like access control of the data, in which you decide who can see your data or who can get or who can like download or like view your data, right? In a decentralized way, not the way that Google is doing right now, because anyways, whatever happens in Google is in Google, right? And it's a single point of failure. Someone can come and hack it away. But on blockchain, as I said, it's community owned and there is no single point of failure, right? So access control, then there is a data ownership where you don't actually hold the user data, but you actually hold the reference, or let's say the data about the data. It's kind of a metadata, right? Like, for example, I'll give you an example of Amazon.com. When Samsung releases their new television set on Amazon.com, they don't actually upload the television into Amazon.com. They just say what the television is about, right? What's the price? What's the color? What's the all the metadata, all the properties of the television. The TV is still sitting on some warehouse of Samsung. So this is owned by Samsung still, right? What Amazon.com does is basically allows Samsung to buy to find the buyer for that data or for the TV, right? And basically, for some of the providers, even Amazon just does not handle the logistics. Big providers handle the logistics themselves, right? The exchange of the data. Same way, what we are doing right now is creating a data marketplace where you can basically upload your data, the properties about the data, not the data. You can register your data. Your data can be sitting somewhere in Google Drive, Dropbox, in your computer, or even like for bigger companies, it can be like Amazon S3 bucket or some other on-premise computers, yeah? But you just provide the metadata about your data, and then you register that on blockchain, and Ocean Protocol basically expose or find buyers for this data to monetize your data, right? In a decentralized way. And also the most important thing is, we even don't know where your data is. So this is handled, this is encrypted and handled in a very cryptographic way that even we don't want to be the point of failure, right? Even if our system compromises, they will not find anything because even we don't know the location of your data. Before it is registered in Ocean Protocol, it's already encrypted. And it can be only decrypted cryptographically, right? So this way we kind of maintain the integrity of the data and the metadata around it. Yeah. So this is like providing the data ownership to the users themselves, right? And also allowing them to control the access of the data. So you can choose whom you want to give access of the data to, right? You can choose the price you want to sell your data. So this is kind of a data marketplace that kind of we are working on, and we are imagining how we can bring security around the data.
Just a question directly to that. How do you value the data? Do you set a price yourself, or is there platforms offering or a demand-based pricing?
So over time, we have realized that this is a big issue because you don't know what your data is. I mean, what your data is value, right? How much value your data has. And obviously, as an individual, you tend to get biased to price your data more than that actually is, right? I mean, I would not believe that, okay, all my Facebook data is just worth 50 cents. I would say it can be like 5,000 euros. But actually for the AI companies, the data of an individual is not worth that much. right? I mean, if you have like a host of data, petabytes of data, then maybe, but your individual data, it doesn't help AI, it doesn't help anyone, only the people who want to target you, right? And probably that is not the people you want to sell your data to. So basically what right now we have in our marketplace is automated pricing models, right? So if you follow the cryptocurrency world, there are automated market makers, we call AMMs, like Uniswap and Balancer. It's okay if the people don't know about them, but how they work is you set a certain price, right? And there's an algorithm which basically updates the price based on the supply and demand, right? If you have a valuable data, let's say I set my price as $1, right? And based on the supply and demand, if it has a more demand, right? With each purchase, the price will increase automatically, right? But if there is no demand, it will always sit at $1. And then probably you want to like make it more cheaper for people to use the data. Yeah. So this is the way we kind of help people kind of price the data in an automatic way, because it's very difficult to obviously price the data.
So it would probably be much easier to display this in a tokenized economy, right? So we have a kind of a way to go. Maybe we have Klaus with also very, very interesting insights from the approach Teal has on this data marketplace idea.
Yes, I think I totally agree with what was said. But one important attribute is missing. I think it's a self-organization. If we look at the human body, we have a very complex self-organized system. We have to distribute blood, oxygen, and so on. And it's completely self-regulated. And for example, imagine what would a blockchain-based YouTube look like. Then we would self-organized realize the concept content as a currency. This means each video that a user uploads has a smart contract with all conditions, and the marketplace will be completely self-organized. And the smart contract aspect, I think this is the core aspect of the blockchain revolution. If you look at the economist Schumpeter, who has written about economical revolution, he said it's the way marketplaces are organized. If this changes, then we will observe a revolution. And this is what happens.
So do you think this might actually emerge out of the current structures? So Amazon, Facebook, and all the big data owners and processors, it will probably be some sort of an either by regulation, because the democracies, governments demand it, or we will have like opposing structures emerging from startups and the Mittelstand. So the people migrate. Do I get this right?
Well, the basic philosophy is cut the middleman, and there won't be any monopols. The broader view is one time we should have a decentralized economy.
Yeah, but how will this roll out? I mean, is there going to be some sort of a consumers revolution going on, or how do you see that? I
think yes. For example, the blockchain-based YouTube, it's only user experience. If the user learn to work with smart contract and to learn, it must be easy, like a smartphone app, easy to use. And then there's anyone can earn money with videos without being dependent what YouTube says on which position or your video is ranked at Google, for example. Then the community decides which video is ranked.
That's a very positive outlook, actually. I hope we can migrate to that. I mean, we have a different aspect of that as well, because the integrity of data, blockchain is like the very foundation for, let's say, a journalist uploading a video. We're talking about times where a deep fake is possible, and I've seen videos of George W. Bush saying something in his own voice. So it's very, very important that we have a platform where people can upload their original content to, and they can always relate on that and say, no, that's a fake because I uploaded that one. Maybe Ragnar, do you have a point on this? Would you like to add on this a little bit?
Good that you ask. Actually, I would much more add to the pricing of data, and giving some reference points from EdTech. You know, Facebook and Google, their biggest revenue stream is advertising. And in advertising, everything is priced on a what's called per impression, per ad based. And and giving you an example how then the data is kind of priced is the following. If an ad, and normally everything is priced by 1,000 impressions or 1,000 ads. So that's a kind of pricing measure there. So ads are, if you have personalized ads, they cost about $10 per 1,000 ads. $10 per 1,000 ads. If those are, so one ad would cost 1 cent. If you add data, and there are in the edtech industry, you have data providers already, DMPs, data management platforms. Most of them actually have been acquired by some of the larger players, but normally they charged for their data, where they would add to the location, for example, the stores, as you had GPS information and so on, and they charge then $1.50 per 1,000, which is about 15% of the price an ad would cost. So you already have a pricing system there, which is kind of established. And if you take that kind of ratio, easily you could say, okay, that means about 10 to 20% of the advertising pricing would be the price of the data. And then, of course, you have scale effects, because if you have more data, you can actually use it more useful. So you don't get a discount, you might pay more. But now, looking at the macroeconomy, look at the revenues of Facebook and Google, take 10 to 20% of their revenue. That's the amount of money today someone could charge for the data in advertising. And of course, there are different other cases when you look in health. If you look at X-rays, where you need a lot to actually predict cancer, there might be a different price. And so there will need to be marketplaces which, based on supply and demand, also will generate a price. But in advertising, you already have price points there. The problem today is the consumer doesn't participate in that kind of revenue stream, which to a certain extent you could say, why not? I, as a consumer, my data is used. And I truly also believe if there would be a system where consumers would get paid for their data, they would also probably much more proactively participate. So
Ragnar,
there's a price.
That's a very good point. I would like to get back to the aspect of health data, because that's a very, very interesting and sensible part. You've talked about the commercial data that we're producing, and I think in the ad sphere, that's kind of the home playing field for artificial intelligence and data harvesting. But in health, there's a lot of potential social positive impact if we would share our data with the doctor. That's personal usage, but also for science, for finding new cures. It would be very, very helpful if we could share our health data, but we all know how sensible that is. So maybe Klaus or Manan could tell us a little bit about this issue that we have here, this conflict in sharing data towards privacy.
I'll start. Yep. So let's make it categorized. There are two types of data. One is that you can share with public, and one that has personal information, that's a private data, right? The way this data gets shared should also be different, right? It is okay for you to let anyone pay money and download your data, public data, not the private data, right? But the private data has a lot of personal information, and then it might not be okay, because also not only you are compromising your privacy, but you are also breaking a lot of regulations, right? Like, for example, GDPR, that has some mandate around the PIIs, we call it, like personally identifiable information. Yeah. So for that, actually what we are doing right now with that is, so what do actually AI need from the data is the insights, right? They actually don't need the data itself in the plain form, but they want to generate the model. They want to train their model with the data, right? So using what we call in our tech compute to data feature, what we do is we basically, instead of sending data to the AI, we bring AI to the data, right? In the closed environment where the AI algorithm gets trained and sent back with the trained model. Yeah. So this way, you are not actually sharing the data. The data is never leaving your premise, but AI is also being benefited from that, right? So this kind of is a win-win for both the parties, the consumer and the provider. And basically, you are not breaking any regulation because the data has never moved. Yeah, because the regulation is around the data itself. So yeah, so this is kind of how we are trying to solve this issue, but there may be other ways as well.
Do you already have playing fields for that? Is there already a use case where it's rolled out?
Yes, so I mean, anyone can go to oceanprotocol.com and check it out. We have certain use cases. We have some partners working with us. Recently, we actually did a proof of concept with Daimler regarding this. And yeah, I mean, things are getting there, progressing on that side as well. So yeah, we are finding earlier use cases and people using this stack. And I think it's a promising solution.
That's exciting. Yeah, it sounds absolutely promising. Klaus, yes?
I would like to add and say the future is near, because we have an example. Look at the Corona app. It's completely decentralized, but it's not very intelligent. But imagine the existing Corona app plus smart contracts. For example, I would allow my Corona app to store if I have fever and share this information. If I traveled by train and 5 other guys share the information whether they had fever or not. And so we could have a very intelligent Corona app, that a trustworthy, intelligent Corona app would be possible blockchain based and smart contract based.
Why didn't they do that? Because it was probably
they didn't talk with us.
Yeah, not enough time, I guess. Also,
yes, also, but it was very expensive. It would be possible for that money.
But you should also, I mean, we also have to see that the blockchain and AI and everything is an emerging tech, right? So we can't expect a majority of the tech people right now working on that. But this is like in an infant stage, right? Once it gets more stable, once it gets widespread adoption, then we will see Corona app and other apps like this kind of running in prod on this type of platforms as well. So I think we are in the early stage right now, but the future is there. Yeah. And we are moving towards that very rapidly.
So from my standpoint, with a not too deep technical background, I always have the idea, I completely understand what blockchain does and what AI can do for us in this sphere. But at the moment, it seems to me I have a company that is behind my data processing, even though I'm not really happy with what they are doing. Let's say we have a decentralized platform emerging now, where all these data market, data trading, data analyzing is done. Do we need third-party institutions controlling and making sure that those decentralized platforms are secure, or will it be just the hard reality of the market for the one that has a data leak or something like that will fail directly? I don't know, whoever wants to answer.
I can take an attempt at that. So you see, the laws which you're talking about is regulations, right? like for example, some government or some, let's say, EU body making regulations around data. So regulations, if you see historical, is emerging from the human sciences, right? So once majority of the community comes together around the idea, and then the law enforcement takes that into consideration and then builds the law around it, right? But human science is not catching up with the tech. Tech is fast-moving science, like computer science and technology. But human science like works a bit slower, right? So that's why we see the reactions instead of like, reactions by the government. For example, Cambridge Analytica, something happened, and then there was laws in effect, right? It was not before that, right? As I say, like there might be a need for central authority to control, or let's say to provide the regulations. Even if you see like GDPR, it's into place, but how well it is enforced, we don't know, right? I mean, EU says that you have to have certain type of data not leaving EU, but how many of them are following? We don't know. We'll only find out when someone hacks someone's system, and then there is lots of things that's revealed, right? So the regulation along with enforcement is necessary. Just defining the regulations will not be, it doesn't ensure that it will be followed up, right?
Yeah, I also think there might be a new type of institution of emerging, because there is definitely a demand for good platforms to be evaluated, and I think there will be this contest type, because if you prove to have a trustworthy platform and you cannot keep up to your promise, you will probably lose your customers anyway. So, but on the other hand, the consumer itself will never understand. I think Ragnar said that the consumer himself will never understand the techniques behind. So it needs to be convenient and working. But he will also need, definitely, this is all a trust game, right? And the big advantage of the new data economy emerging is that we can trust more these decentralized institutions and these new solutions than the old ones, because they have proven they use our data without asking us. So do you also see this kind of controlling, evaluating companies emerging? Have you heard of something like that?
So I have heard of like a couple of, let's say, on the blockchain-based technology companies that emerging to solve the issue of fake news, right? So this is one step towards kind of evaluating, or let's say curating the platforms, or let's say the information, right? And I'm pretty sure there will be more in the upcoming future. Also, jumping back to the question that you asked earlier, that how do you see this play out, right? Is consumer going to embrace the blockchain technology, or how it will be? So I see this as the three possible ways. Number one, Facebook, Google just embraces the blockchain technology themselves. And I think that's very likely, very possible, because Facebook is coming up with Libra. If you see blockchain, Google is trying out with different blockchain solutions. Microsoft is also launching some data marketplace soon. Azure has their own data marketplace launch soon, yeah. And then there is other issue, that other approach there, where government or institutions jump in and create some laws around this institution, that they are not able to handle things in a centralized way, where they have a high risk of failure, right? And the third one is consumer coming up and accepting blockchain. The third one, consumer coming up and accepting blockchain. This will not be, let's say, spearheaded by the consumers themselves. It should be done by the blockchain technology, like the projects built on blockchain, right? Because believe it or not, but people will, majority of the people, it's very confusing to understand blockchain, how blockchain works. And it's also probably they're not interested in that, right? What they want is the products. What they want is the services, right? And so it will become the responsibility of these companies to develop, abstract the technical part away and make their product as easy to use, hiding all these technological complexities. And once that happens, we'll see wider adoption around it.
Yeah, I think so. We need awareness in the first place, and we need convenient solutions that promise trustworthy data handling and stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely agree. It's perfect that you already mentioned that in your eyes, Amazon and Facebook are already adopting blockchain. With Libra, I kind of not so sure if it's a real decentralized system that's emerging there, because they will probably stay in control. But it brings me perfectly to the question from the audience. We have the question here. Amazon, Facebook, and others won't just sit around and let the revolution happen. What is their strategy to adopt these proposed changes? So maybe, I think Ragnar had a little bit less time than the others here. Ragnar, do you have an opinion on that? Will they sit around and let it happen? Will they adopt it?
They already have business models around this. So Amazon has Amazon Web Services, AWS, which today is the market leader in cloud services. They have a market share of nearly 50%. They have an AWS data exchange where they already have more than 80 data providers providing data. And I think from a data security perspective, we need centralized systems where we have data sitting there, which there is protected, and then through blockchain being able to handle smart contracts, which then handles the access to that data, the access, the billing, and to that data in a transparent way. So they are already adopting those kind of systems, and in that case they do that in a very open way. On Facebook, they for sure will come up with something. Today what they are doing is they are offering, using and leveraging the data for advertising, but there might be other models what they might come up with. But Amazon, as the company actually now with the longest history on that, they have this whole infrastructure already in place, and they're pushing this. I know also they are investing heavily also in blockchain. So that is probably their way to participate and going forward to also monetize on that, being the marketplace for the data. From a European perspective, the question then is always that, does that fit to our GDPR requirements? So they might come up with marketplaces where they need to sit in their European data centers only and not in the US, for example. So I think it would be good if there's a good collaboration to bring solutions to the market, because the gain, the results, what we might get out of those collaborations can be huge. We always talk about advertising and so on, but the future lies a lot in so many different other things. Health is just one, but very important one. Climate is another one, where we need to be able to get data so that more parties are able to use that data for good to build better solutions in the market.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. Klaus, maybe to this Amazon question, because you're, as far as I understood it with Teal, you're building something that opposes kind of the idea of Amazon. I mean, they will definitely try to front run each development. That's what they will do all the time with their financial power sitting there. But isn't this kind of really like the really foundation of their business model? Is that is in threat because of decentralized solutions coming up, right?
Yes, and I think there's one hope that there could be a real competition, because what we face as Teal is a combination of social network and shopping, the fusion of social networks and shopping. Same thing just happened with Walmart and TikTok. And we observe that the duration, the lifetime of social networks is shorter. Within a few months, a new European social network could come up and could be successful. So I think the dynamical situation of user behavior would allow this change. If there is a positive user experience with European data security, I think there's really, Europe today has the chance. Let's use it.
Oh, it's perfect, as if I had instructed you to say that, because that brings me directly.
You didn't.
I didn't, definitely, because this directly brings me already to the last question of this show, and I have prepared you for this just directly before the show, so they didn't have much time. But my final question before we already have to come to an end is the governmental role, or what's in your eyes the most important steps so we can leverage these disruptive technological evolution that we witness right now and that we have like coming up. What's the next step that needs to be done from a governmental or a society perspective? Whoever wants to answer first.
I think our experience is that crowdfunding is very complex in Germany. For example, initial exchange offers are very difficult to realize in Germany because of the legislation is not ready just now.
So you would say we need some sort of a easier regulation on that one, providing the startups with better financing, crowdfunding options. Right?
Yes, each blockchain economy concept with cryptocurrencies has problems to be allowed to be regulated in Germany, for example.
Yeah, that's why many of them move to Switzerland or Malta or some.
We also did, yes.
Yeah, see. So yeah, this is definitely not in the interest of Germany to have all the good startups moving to different regulation. Yeah, good point. Good point. Anybody else on the next steps that need to be done? Any demand towards the government?
So I would go next. So I'm just thinking on a far scale, on the vision scale, yeah. So as we discussed and established earlier, that the data awareness is very important for people to realize that, how their data is being used. Government can help make this clear, like by regulating the big companies on displaying, like whenever new user visits their website, they have to so right now, if you see there's regulation around the cookies, right? The browser cookies, and you have to have this big text and explain this is where it is used, but this no one reads, honestly, right? It's so lengthy text and no one reads about it. So maybe some regulations where it is easy for people to interpret how the data is being used, right? Can basically create a wave of awareness for the people. And then they have a choice. Oh, do you want your data to be used like this or no? And then we will see people making right choices. And then I think that would bring in more and more transparency around the data usage and adoption towards the blockchain as well, right? Because then people will say, okay, what is the solution? And then they will see there is different solutions out there. And then you will see more and more people coming on the other side of the game.
That's a very good point. Transparency. I mean, we're already seeing it with the internet happening right now. If you use a browser in Germany, you will have to click like, I allow this cookie to be planted. People still don't understand what the cookies mean in the backwards, but they get aware that there is something that they need to have control about. So yeah, that's a perfect point.
Yeah, but they also don't know how the data is being used, because there's a long text and it is intentional by the big companies because they don't want you to read it, right? And if we have some regulations to make these things easier, and then we'll see the change.
Yeah, perfect. So Ragnar, maybe you also have a short demand towards the government or the crowd.
Yeah. To the last point, there is regulation already in place, even on cookies. Yeah. Also on mobile, but it needs to be more and more implemented. We need to make sure. And the industry needs to make sure they make it transparent enough. Yeah, and sometimes you have behind those acceptance clicks, there's more information that needs to be much more visible, so that consumers are able to go down that route, so that they can see who is using my data. Yeah, which are the businesses? Yeah, and the problem is always you don't know exactly what they're doing, but it would be already good to exactly understand who is getting my data. Yeah, and the regulation is already in place. I think now what needs to be done is make sure it gets implemented through the whole food chain.
Thank you, Ragnar. I couldn't have wished for a better final statement. That's perfect. Thank you very much to all speakers. for your insights and your great comments. I think the audience has got a lot of it out of it. Maybe we should forward the YouTube videos to the local politicians, especially the last part where we have this demands being formulated from some experts, what needs to be done to get Europe, Germany, but I think it counts for the rest of the world as well. Yes, thank you very much to our three guests. Thank you very much to the audience for being here and for sharing your time. And thank you very much as well. I should not forgive about it to the team of BLOCKCHANCE, because it's been quite a ride to get here, and hopefully all the technical part worked out as well as the discussion. So you will find this show later on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/c/blockchance. And don't forget to discuss with us in our Telegram channel, t.me/blockchance. And yeah, now it's time for me to announce the next show. And I'm at least the same excited about that topic as I was about today's topic. The next show will be on November 4th. So we plan to have each show on the first Wednesday of each month. And the topic of next show will be the beginning of a new era. Can blockchain technology be helpful to fulfill the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals by solving the biggest problems of our times? And the speakers will be Mark Buckley from the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals advocate and World Economic member. We have Brian Isley, founder and CEO at Slave Free Trade. And we have Alice Sam, co-founder at Give Nation and chairwoman in blockchain. So thanks again to everybody for participating and making this show what it is, comment and feedback. And now it's only left to say goodbye and long live the blockchain. Thank you.
Thank you very much for hosting us.